and welcome to our next session. We are here with Olivier from XCP-ng. XCP-ng are also one of our exhibitors and event partners, so be sure you visit their booth. They have a lot to share. And let's give a warm welcome to Olivier.
Hello. Hello. So today I will talk about XCP-ng and CloudStack. So this is one of the two talks I will give during this event. So the goal is to make you an introduction on XCP-ng and how it could work with CloudStack on top of it. So I'm Oliver. I'm the Vates CEO and co-founder. I'm also a former system administrator working on Linux and Zen. I created both projects, Zen Orchestra and XCP-ng. You can find us on Twitter, obviously, and the XCP-ng website is xcpng.org. Also, if you want to take a look at those slides, they are available on vates.fr/ccc talk, as you can see on the bottom on the screen right now. That's exactly the presentation I'm sharing right now with you. So if you want to have access to the links, you can do it from there. So Vates, the company behind those products, is a French company in the Alps, spread in France in Grenoble. We are doing open source solutions since a while now, but in short, we are doing virtualization solution since 2015. And we are doing in details a lot of research and development in, let's say, the cybersecurity aspects of virtualization and other pretty advanced topics. And for that, we have also some grants from the French government or the European Union. And basically, the headcount in Vates is around 25, a bit less, 23, something like that. So what we do at Vates. So we are doing mainly two things, XCP-ng and Zen Orchestra, but also other stuff, as I said, like, kind of more research and development. But today we'll focus more on XCP-ng and Zen Orchestra. As I said first, there's two sessions this week. So this one is the intro and how it works. And tomorrow we'll have a workshop on how to do it for real with some example and how to make the installation, configuration, and automation. So again, today let's go through an introduction regarding what is XCP-ng and Zen Orchestra and how you could plug it with CloudStack. So in a nutshell, what is XCP-ng? So in short, you can see it like a Zen distro, like a Linux distro, but with Zen installed on it. It's completely free and open source. It's a fork of Citrix Zen Server back in 2018. It's the real successor of XCP project. So for those who know it, it was when Zen Server wasn't open source and was called the Zen Cloud project. So we can reboot the project with XCP-ng new generation, hosted within the Linux Foundation inside the Zen project itself. So it's completely open. It's really a community project and not just something made by one company. And then what is Zen Orchestra? The Zen Orchestra is the management layer for the system administrator. It's also free and open source. It's even AGPL v3. It's a fully web management console, so you can do everything that you need from a web browser. You can see it as, if you are more used to VMware, a kind of vCenter equivalent, but also kind of middleware with a CLI and API. And combined with XCP-ng, that's the stack that you can use and administrate easily. To give you some numbers about XCP-ng and Zen Orchestra, even if the project started pretty recently, somehow in only 3 years from now, we got a lot of success regarding the community, a lot of people using it, downloading it, and the community is also helping to provide mirrors all around the world, which is really cool. It's a lot of data downloaded for both the ISO and updates. So if you are doing updates, you will find automatically the nearest mirror. And a lot of people, you can subscribe to a newsletter if you want to learn more about it. And since we started it, we made 6 releases, and the current one is 8.2, which is compatible with CloudStack, and it's an LTS, so it means there's 5 years support. And we have around roughly 1 security patch per month. So it means we are really, careful and doing a lot of efforts to keep the platform really secure. Zen Orchestra, on the other hand, as a management platform, is for this year managing the sum of all the managed VM by all our customers. It's pretty big, same for the number of machines, but as it's also fully open source, we have the community using it directly by cloning it on GitHub, and we can reasonably think there's more than 1 million VMs that are managed by Zen Orchestra in total all around the world. But again, it's not a SaaS product, it's something that you download, deploy, so it's just an estimation because we don't have a control on this. You are running this on-prem. So some example of customers and partners. So we have, from the enthusiasts running XCP-ng Zen Orchestra in their garage to very large, industries, companies, public agencies, telecommunication, banking. It's very, very a broad spectrum of companies and entities using XCP-ng and Zen Orchestra. There's even some cloud companies providing, hosting, like Ikula, for example, running with CloudStack and XCP-ng, for example. So there's a lot of from small to very large infrastructures from, thousands of physical machines. And before going to CloudStack, the last thing is where our users are coming from. And as you can imagine, the first user we had were coming from Citrix hypervisor because, again, XCP-ng is a fork of Zen Server. So we converted half of our Zen Orchestra users that were using Citrix to XCP-ng in only 1 year, and now it's something like 80 or between 70 and 80%, because that's really simple to do that migration. And well, that's really open source. It's transparent. There's no licensing, and that's our core business. Unlike Citrix, which is doing a virtual desktop, for us, server virtualization is really our core business. And more recently, I would say, especially since last year, we started to have VMware users coming from VMware platform and switching to XCP-ng and Zen Orchestra. And that's interesting. And for them, the transition is pretty simple because at some point you can compare some components to XCP-ng. For example, as you can see, ESXi could be compared to XCP-ng, vCenter could be compared to Zen Orchestra, and part of Veeam, as Zen Orchestra is also a backup solution, could be compared to it. And because that similarity and the fact that we only have a professional support business model, meaning that's simple to budget, to count, and that's optional even, then for a lot of VMware users, it makes sense to make that migration to XCP-ng. And finally, before talking about CloudStack, this is a simple example on how things are plugged together. You have your clusters that are called pool in the XCP-ng world, and those pools are connected to Zen Orchestra, which is for the system administrator, the vCenter-like platform. And from there, you can also make backup and send your virtual machine to the backup storage. So what about XCP-ng and CloudStack? So to me, to sum up very quickly, we could say that's a kind of perfect match to scale for some reason I will explain. So first, the compatibility between XCP-ng and CloudStack. So because we are using the same API between Zen Server and XCP-ng, that was really simple for the CloudStack project to connect to XCP-ng. Also, this connector is battle tested because it was used since almost CloudStack is there, because CloudStack was compatible almost first with Zen Server. So this part is very mature. It works very well, and it's not new, despite XCP-ng is pretty new by itself. As I said, in general, we are on shoulder of giants, so we are not reinventing the wheel. Things are working very well. The other parts, which is also really important, is on the collaboration level, because unlike Citrix in the past, we are fully open in the way that you can even build XCP-ng from scratch with our documentation, and it's pretty easy to discuss between CloudStack developers and XCP-ng developers, and to help them to build their test platform, their QA, and so on and so on. So and also, because it's a fully open source project, we are really happy to collaborate together and to work together to provide XCP-ng at scale. And it's aligned because we got the same priorities. I mean, XCP-ng is our priority here. That's not a sub-product for us. It's something very important. So that's great to be able to work with CloudStack to bring it to a next level where it could be used by very, very large scale deployments, because we are focused on issues on our scale and CloudStack on their scale, meaning that we could cover from the smallest to the biggest deployments thanks to the CloudStack leverage you can add by putting in on top of XCP-ng. And the other thing that's pretty nice too is that we align on the technical level, meaning that to have, let's say, the best practice on XCP-ng are also the best practices on CloudStack. So it means, for example, the cluster size is also the right way to do it in XCP-ng and CloudStack. So in the end, those blocks are, plugging each other very well without having to make drastic choices in one way or another. So it just works. So I did another recap, this time adding the CloudStack brick on top of it. As you can see, there's nothing changed in the existing infrastructure. So if you used before only XCP-ng without CloudStack, that's pretty easy to add CloudStack on top of it. And if you want to adopt XCP-ng, if you already have CloudStack, then you just have to follow the best practices in XCP-ng, and that's it. There's nothing more to learn, and we will see the details in the technical talk, the thing that we'll do tomorrow. So regarding the benefits, so why using XCP-ng if you are using CloudStack? So let's go into from the top to the bottom. So first, it's pretty easy to install. XCP-ng, in fact, could be fully automated regarding the deployment. So if you have a lot of bare metal machines to deploy, you have an answer file that works with PXE, so you can configure things and provision your physical host pretty fast. And when it's installed, that's it. You got the API and there's nothing to configure inside the machine itself. You can do all of that through the API, connect, for example, Zen Orchestra to make the initial configuration to your host, and that's pretty much it. So that works pretty well and fast out of the box, as I said, but also a great stuff with XCP-ng is the fact that it works on a lot of different machines, almost any x86 machine, from the, I would say, almost a fully passive machine running on, let's say, a low power Intel CPU with, let's say, 4 to more gig of RAM. That will work. XCP-ng will be able to deploy on that. To the biggest machine with whatever number of sockets and high number of cores, this will work the same way. So it means that if you want to deploy your CloudStack in, let's say, an energy efficient environment or using low power, you can do it with XCP-ng. Or if you want to use your regular hardware, even your hardware from 5 years ago, it's not a problem. You can deploy XCP-ng on it. It will be supported and it will work. And again, there's no agent to install. So it means that you just connect Zen Orchestra. You can manage your virtual machine, your networks, and so on for the initial configuration before CloudStack. You can back up your virtual machine. There's nothing to install on the hosts themselves. So it works, again, out of the box. But it's also easy to scale. So you have two ways to scale. The horizontal way to scale by adding more clusters, more pools. But you can also design your cluster initially to vertically scale if you want to add more power, for example, add more hosts into one cluster. Then you have, vertically more power. And you can grow without, having artificial barriers like licensing or being blocked by a license daemon or vendor lock-in. It's not a problem. You can scale first and ask for support later if you want to have support. So that's why it's really handy when you need to grow very fast. You are not limited artificially because of thanks to the fully support-based model we have. Regarding the interoperability, we are working a lot to allow easy imports of virtual machine from VMware, but also the other way. So if you want to make, for example, a proof of concept, you can export virtual machines from VMware and send them back to VMware at some point if you want. You're not locked at all inside the platform. We are working a lot on security, as I said, and there's Zen behind, the curtain. And this project, the Zen project itself, is really great in terms of security. They are really focused on that. So again, we are on shoulder of giants. We are not working alone on Zen. We are also working with Citrix, AWS, and so on. So there's a pre-disclosure list. When there is an issue, that's pretty easy to try to build your patches before it will be, public. So you will have, you will stay secure if you follow, for example, our blog on XCP-ng. You will have a new article on the security implication. You can learn why you should update or not. That's up to you, but in general, it's great to stay up to date. So that's why being based on a very secure core engine is really important, and that's why also for us XCP-ng is something that matters a lot in terms of security. So how to do it? So obviously, I will give you more details tomorrow, but roughly the process is this one. First, you just think about building your cluster, which is the smallest brick inside your data center. So how much compute power you need, planning your networks, preparing the storage, for example, an NFS share, which is working very well. So you will install on one machine with XCP-ng, configure all the LACP, bonding of the network cards, connect to all the network you need. And when it's done, then you don't need to redo this configuration. You will just add the other hosts, freshly installed hosts, into the existing cluster, which is a cluster with one machine, but it doesn't matter. As soon as you add the host inside the cluster, it will take automatically all the configuration from it. So it means that all the LACP and any configuration you did on the first host will propagate automatically to the slaves entering the cluster. And when it's done, then you just have to add the cluster to CloudStack, then add the storage again from CloudStack, for example, your NFS that was ready before, and then that's it. You are connected and you can start to create this machine inside your CloudStack environment. So that's pretty simple. We will see the technical details tomorrow, but still the principle like this apply, and it's not really rocket science to add XCP-ng hosts inside your infrastructure. So in conclusion, that was an overview on what is XCP-ng and how it could be integrated with CloudStack. In short, if you have only a few things to keep in mind on it, is that XCP-ng and Zen Orchestra are really easy to install, then deploy and maintain. For example, to make all the updates from Zen Orchestra, that's pretty easy to do. Then you can scale without any blocker. You just copy paste your recipe to build a cluster, to build other cluster, and that's it. And the integration and compatibility with CloudStack is great because the LTS of CloudStack is compatible also with the LTS of XCP-ng. So you have a long-term support plan for both solution inside your data center. And also, everything is open source, from the hypervisor to the cloud management platform, which is great, meaning that you can count on professional support if you want, but that's entirely up to you. And that's it for my presentation. I hope I give you enough details. But again, tomorrow, if you want to start to dig about how to do things in details, we'll work on that together through the workshop. So if you have any questions, go ahead. We'll be happy to answer.
A lot of questions here, actually, starting with the first one. The backup feature seems pretty important with Zen Orchestra. How would you back up VMs when XCP-ng is used with CloudStack? Also, is there any chance to implement backup via CloudStack backup framework?
Okay, so regarding the first part, yeah, there's a lot of features that you backup features you can use in Zen Orchestra. So the idea is, if you have VMs that you want to keep and you want to restore for whatever reason, yeah, sure, you can use it with Zen Orchestra. This won't have any, problem to do that with having CloudStack on top. Both Zen Orchestra and CloudStack are consuming the same API. So in short, a backup with Zen Orchestra, we just make a snapshot, export the snapshot, and that's it. So this won't interfere or cause any trouble with CloudStack on top of it. So you can do that. And if you want to enter more in details on backup features in Zen Orchestra, we could answer your question if you contact us. There's no problem. And the second part of the question, Yvette, can you repeat it, please?
Yes. Is there any chance to implement backup via CloudStack's backup framework, which is similar to Veeam?
Okay, so I'm not a CloudStack expert, but right now I think this is more a CloudStack question than a Xen question. I can tell that on the Xen side, we are doing all the backup stuff, and so we don't have integration with Vim. So I suppose the question is there's maybe some integration between Vim and CloudStack, I suppose. And if we could do the same thing between CloudStack and Xen I'm not sure if that's the question. We don't have integration right now, but we could have in the future if it's requested.
Yeah, depends most probably on the customer requests and the interaction.
Exactly. I mean, to be fair, when we started Xen 7-8 years ago from now, so it's been a while, it was just meant to be a management platform and not a backup platform. And if we did a backup platform on top of it, it was because of the user feedback on it. And right now, the backup is the main features used for Xen. So if there's demands on that, then we'll be happy to hear them and try to build that into the right direction. And as I said, we have a really good relationship between, the CloudStack developers and XCP-ng developers. So if there's something we can do, obviously we'll be happy to do it.
Awesome. Thank you. So I'm continuing with next questions. What NVIDIA GPUs would you recommend that supports multiple GPU attached to a single guest VM?
Okay, that's a good question. So right now, we do not have yet the fully working vGPU stuff for NVIDIA, mainly because there's some parts of it that are not open source. And this is something we start to have more requests on it. So be assured that we will investigate that question probably for Q1 for the next year, because it might be not something really big to do on our side to make it fully compatible. Right now you have the PCI pass-through, but if you want vGPU with NVIDIA, there's a small piece of code we have to rewrite to have the authorization to do it. And with MX GPU with AMD, the problem is, well, that works, but with some kind of relatively old GPUs right now, there's kind of a lack of support on recent AMD hardware, but in the same time, there's not a lot of recent AMD hardware available to do the GPU anyway. So we are waiting for more hardware to be available, so we'll be able to make some work into that. But that might work outside the box depending on the AMD driver. And for NVIDIA, let's please hang on. We'll have some news probably in the next months.
Thank you. And the next question, is there any interest or effort to turn XCP-ng into a stateless hypervisor so that it can be simply loaded via PXE and then automatically added to a cluster?
I mean, that should be doable at some point. I'm thinking, but it will mainly, I think, more depends on what CloudStack required to get something without any configuration. But if it's something that would be asked, we can learn more about the prerequisites on what's needed to be automated on the CloudStack level to connect to the XCP-ng and do whatever needed with automation. But again, in theory, I think if you already know what do you need in terms of networks, LACP, and so on, you can already create that with the answer file in PXE boot. So you might already be able to do that. And if you can't, I will be happy to hear about the details so we could dig together, investigate what's left to achieve that. But that might be already possible through the answer file configuration where you could put custom scripts inside. So in theory, if you exactly know what you need, you could prepare the host automatically and provision it entirely automatically. So then from CloudStack perspective, you just connect to it when it's already ready to connect.
And next question comes from Ray Anthony. He's asking, is there any hope in the future to support team provisioning storage on iSCSI for XCP-ng?
And that's a great question. And yes, this is called so the current storage stack in XCP-ng and Zen server is called SMAPI v1, Storage Mapper API v1. And this SMAPI v1 isn't able to handle thin provision on block-based storage, sadly. But the SMAPI v3, which is far better stack for storage, will be able to do that. But the thing is, it's not prime yet. It's not ready yet. But we really have hopes to make good progress on it in next year. So as soon as it's ready, we might be able to use a shared block storage like iSCSI or even NVMe over Fabric in a thin provision fashion. So we have really great hopes with the SMAPI v3, and that's one of our big commitment we have for next year.
Thank you, Olivier. And to wrap it up, can you share with us, according to you, which are the unique capabilities which make XCP-ng better than other hypervisors?
Well, I think in short, it could be summed up as the fact that you won't have any lock-in. You can grow very fast without any artificial barriers. It's easy to install, deploy, and maintain. And it already works very well with CloudStack. So that's why it makes sense for people who want something that's just able to scale, just works, and that's open source.
Thank you very much. And one more question, is there any solution brief or something like a reference architecture about XCP-ng and CloudStack, or a user guide which people can read?
Yes, in fact, there is. There will be another one tomorrow, but there's a video made by someone at CloudStack that's available on YouTube, which is a great introduction on how to do things. And to be fair, I will reuse some content in there to make my workshop tomorrow. So if you want to have more resource, I will put the link tomorrow during the workshop, so you will have both the my workshop and also the video made by CloudStack on how to prepare and select what do you need to make it work, and also the kind of rule of thumb you might use to build a clean and proper working XCP-ng infrastructure working with CloudStack. So don't miss the session tomorrow, and otherwise I will put the link for the video that's already existing on YouTube.
Thank you very much. Any final words before we put the end of this session?
That's all on my side.
Thank you very much for being with us, reminding all of the people in the session that if you want to continue the communication with XCP-ng, you can visit their booth at any time. And tonight, I hope we will also have them in the virtual lounge, so you can also have a live chat with them. Thank you very much, Olivier, and have a nice day.
You're welcome. Thank you. Bye-bye.